Hi Mark, and this is my story.
And I'm Chris, and this is his story, although from my perspective, and it may reflect some of the views of Mark's mum, my wife Joss, who is sitting over there somewhere towards the back, here to check the accuracy of our statements. To start off, I'd like to find out a little bit of your background, Simon, but why did you sponsor these kids?
Because in those times, a lot of people were doing paper runs. I couldn't do paper runs, so I wanted to do something for the community.
Now, I used to do a paper run when how old were you when you started selling chocolate?
12 years old.
I used to do a paper run, and I know what I did with the money.
Yeah.
I kept it. It was for me. Whereas you doing this, you weren't doing it for yourself.
I give it to World Vision. By the way, where is World Vision today?
You are representing World Vision.
Yeah, I know that.
Now, how many kids have you got in India?
3.
3 kids, and you've got some kids somewhere else.
Tanzania.
And I suppose you want to go and visit them someday.
I've been there.
And you had a particular interest in Tanzania, in addition to having your sponsored kids there.
Yes. My mother was born over there in Tanzania.
So you half Tanzanian then?
No. I'm not black.
No, but your share is.
Yes,
Okay. Now I'd like to go back a bit. When were you born, Mark?
76. 1976.
And when's your birthday?
25th of August.
So you're inviting these people to your next party.
Maybe.
Way back then, Andy Leslie was the All Black captain
Yes.
when you were born. Rob Muldoon was the Prime Minister.
Yes.
And you share your birthday with Billy Ray Cyrus, Sean Connery, and Ivan the Terrible. I'm sure you're pleased to know that.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about your family. And often when we do this, Mark and I present regularly, and I'm generally not known to be his father. So, and we keep that separate till the very end. But you know that we are, you know how we connect. But anyhow, tell us about your family. I'm not going to.
My family is Rachel.
Is that your mother?
My youngest sibling. She's 34. Better get that right. And she's looking after 3 kids. Yeah.
So they nieces and nephews for you?
2, 1. Right. Okay. I gotta think about it.
You don't have that many to remember.
3, 2 and 1.
Right, so they're pretty close together.
Yeah.
And she got a husband?
Of course. That's how. Better be careful what I say.
Yeah, it's not entirely essential these days. No.
But I was going to say that's how the E comes into tradition.
Not every tradition. But you've got a pretty good mother and father too, I understand.
Yes.
Okay, school. Did you go to special school?
Yeah, for a wee while.
And but you didn't want to stay all your life in a special school, right?
I remember going to Wellington College, and we had a party, and there was some hooligans let down my mother's tires.
These were some of your classmates, right?
Early hours of the morning. So my mother got a phone call to say, where these people come from?
Okay, well, let's get back from the hooligans, your classmates, too.
Yeah, well,
You had some problems in terms of funding going to high school. So at one point, when the Ministry of Education wouldn't pay the costs for you to go to high school, what did you suggest you'd do?
sit outside Parliament buildings
And do what?
and sell chocolate.
And so you had a sign on your wheelchair saying, Ministry of Education can't fund my education, I want to help them.
Yeah.
And you made $47.
Yeah, that's right.
What did you do with it? Who did you take that to?
I gave it to
Your MP. Who was your MP at the time?
I forgot.
He was the Minister of Education. Who was your MP? The one, he's still in Parliament. Peter Dunn. Some things don't change. He's still there.
Dunn. Yeah, that's right, Peter Dunn.
And he gave it to the Minister of Education,
And gave it straight back.
and you got into school.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, sometime later, the school principal wrote to the Ministry of Education and said, it's not working, please remove Mark from the school and find somewhere else. And he wrote in his letter, all our special needs fund is used for the visually impaired students. So your father, that's me, wrote to the principal and said, I know how to access your special needs funds.
Take my eyes out.
I offered to poke your eyes out. And did you get to stay at the school?
Yes, I did.
So it worked, didn't it? You don't live with your parents, I take it?
Certainly not.
Why did you decide to leave home? I mean, you've got lovely parents.
I do, and
So why did you decide to leave home? You must have been happy
I
there.
wanted to get out of my own pad.
And so what did you go to?
What should I call it?
Up to you.
I'll call it Fred 100.
What was it?
My house.
Was it a house or was it an institution?
It came into an intrusion.
And what time could you get up in the morning?
7 o'clock.
And what about the weekends?
7 o'clock.
Holiday time?
7 o'clock.
Christmas Day?
7 o'clock.
So it was obviously quite flexible.
Yeah.
And you were very happy there.
Get on with it.
All right. Advance to September 2003. A lot happened then. Halle Berry separated from her husband. Japan had an 8-point earthquake and Johnny Cash died.
Yeah, I know all that.
You have done it before. And you went to a conference. What was the conference about?
Supported living standards. In those days it was standards plus. Now it's
So it was about, what, independent living?
quite correct.
And what did you think of doing?
Moving into my own house.
And what did the old man think?
He thinks I never could do it, but he was persuaded by a health board.
Okay, and you got home from this conference and you had a word with Mum, and what did she do?
She was on the phone to the real estate agent to get me a house.
And April 2004, Google launched Gmail, Peter Ustinov died, Kiwi historian Michael King died, and you moved into your own home.
Yes.
Who decides what time you have to get up?
Me.
7 o'clock?
No, I ever sleeping. Yeah.
So you do what you like, when you like.
Yeah.
And how does all this work with your, do you call them caregivers?
PAs.
So Hayley's your PA.
Quite correct.
How long's she been with you?
10 years.
So before you moved into your own home, she was working with you?
They didn't want to give Hayley up. They found out that Hayley
Wanted to move and work with you?
and they wasn't very happy about that.
What do you do for recreation?
Oh yeah. Hey,
On Saturdays?
sell chocolate.
How much?
20,000
20,000 bars. And how much is it per bar if I want to buy one?
$250.
You haven't brought any today, have you?
Yes.
And you'll be selling them afterwards?
Yes, and yesterday I saw Gareth Hopkins, cricket captain.
The Auckland cricket captain. Where did you see him?
He came over for lunch.
Well, that's very nice. How did you arrange that?
Through his cousin.
Who just happens to be here today.
Yeah, that's right, JD.
Thanks, JD.
Yeah.
And you do quite a bit of speaking around the place.
Yeah.
Where have you spoken?
Parliamentary breakfast.
What, to MPs?
Yes.
That could learn a thing or two.
Hamilton.
You've gone overseas with your speaking as well.
Yeah. Honolulu.
Where else? Where'd you go last year?
Canberra.
And in Canberra you wanted to see an endangered species in its natural environment. What was that?
Julia Gillard.
And where did you see her?
Parliament buildings.
Mark, tell us something about church, the good, the bad and the ugly. Do you go to church?
Yeah, well, not for a while though.
So you're not going currently?
No.
So why is that?
I'll get back into it.
So do you lead a pretty good life, Mark?
Yes, I do. I go, I go to the rugby with Dennis Brogenshaw. He gets complimentary tickets. So
it's more than I can get.
We go there and
you have a pretty good life, you enjoy life.
Certainly.
Mark's got a pretty robust faith in God, a stronger faith than I reckon I would have if I was in Mark's shoes, or on his wheels. Mark grew up with God, Jesus and the rest of them taken for granted. Kids' church was fun, another bunch of mainstream people to relate to. We, as his parents, heard the biblical offering, but we prayed for healing, and presto, God would deliver. We did, he didn't. Helpfully explained. You've got to be sure that you're praying in terms of God's will for Mark's life. God's won't, is my view. God can get off anything, that's the line you take. From time to time we go to some event where the latest incarnation of John Wimber would encourage the ordinary people to do the praying. A young guy sitting in a wheelchair has got to be a sitting duck, as it were, for such people. Imagine if I could pray and get that guy out of his wheelchair. Wouldn't that look good on my eternal CV? They did their thing, saw nothing happen, and quickly moved on with some parting word about God's will. God's won't, more likely. We faced many and varying church challenges after our move to Auckland, with a number consigning Mark to the too hard basket. Mark was a guy keen to take on anything. So when the youth group ventured out to chat to people in a nearby park about faith, life, anything, Mark was keen. Sorry, Mark, you're not welcome. That stuck in his throat, more so in mine, because Mark has more confidence than most of us in sharing freely and non-threateningly with strangers on God, life, anything. On leaving home, Mark decided to try a church just a few hundred yards wheeling from his flat. While the church was warm and welcoming towards Mark, one or two of the wackier fringe members saw Mark as a target. So Mark's had some tough characters who have leaned and imposed on him perhaps, but saints preserve us. Some of God's saints have done far more than preserve Mark and help him have a valuable life. They have enhanced it with their sacrificial and their generous giving. Some of them have done it through their contributions in the normal daily comings and goings of life. Imaginative people at Mark's churches in Wellington and Auckland have creatively assisted him in Sunday school and youth activities. They've also given us a break by babysitting for a night or a weekend when Mark was younger.
Thank you.
Others have exercised their saintliness through specific Christian ministries. And I reckon Di Willis from Christian Fellowship for Disabled, who's here today, is a standout. Rounding up a whole bunch of disabled people in wheelchairs who are unemployed and short on daytime activities is not the PC way of doing stuff. The PC way, and I agree with its principle, is to get people into the mainstream rather than bunch together. The trouble is, too often you can get swept under in the mainstream. So you withdraw to the side, and there you can get all too easily isolated in the stagnant ponds. For many, however, Mark included, it's better to be with a bunch of disabled people than left at home when all the other activities have gone mainstream and you've been left behind. The daytime Christian Fellowship for Disabled meetings have a range of speakers and visiting guests. They sing, eat, pray, listen, have fun, and go home at the end of the day inspired, encouraged, and the better for it. And it perhaps is more inclusive for Mark than church. When we arrived in Auckland, we went to the nearest church down the road. I'd sussed it the night before, and it had a ramp. Mark was 16. So we went to the church the next morning, wheeled Mark up the ramp to the side door, which was locked. So I went into the foyer. There was a lovely old dear there, and I said, would like to use the ramp to get into the church. And she said, oh, it's so great. We put that ramp in the International Year of Disabled People, and we used to have a whole bunch of people come in the wheelchairs. And she didn't use the word crips, but I think she meant it. And they used to sit there up the front in that corner. We put them all there, and she didn't say the ghetto, but I think she meant it. They don't come now. I don't know why. I said, there's one of them waiting outside that door to get in as we talk. That was the last time Mark came to that church, except when he comes with us at Christmas. Some years back, I saw this story published in the Melbourne Anglican. In fact, I wrote this story published in the Melbourne Anglican. It came to pass on the first day of the week that a man came unto the cathedral of St. Paul's in Melbourne, that he might worship the Lord. And he travelled with his son, who was sick of the palsy, and in an iron chair with wheels. As they came to that place, they did see before them an hindrance of a multitude of steps. Near under the steps was a sign, and an inscription of an iron chair with wheels. And that sign did point to a lane which is called Flinders. And so the man did wheel his son to the appointed place. But the gate and the door in that place was securely fastened, lest it be beat upon by robbers. And so the man and his son traversed the outside length of the cathedral for the third time. And the man did mount the multitude of steps. And behold, there was a woman in that place, handing out scrolls to the enterers in. When the father did ask if he might bring in his son, the woman spake to the father, saying, Seek thou the verger 100 cubits hither, and did point in the vague direction of the front of the cathedral. Now the father wist not the raiment of vergers, and he wandered afar off for some time, seeking the verger. It came to pass that one of the other robed figures identified the verger, who appeared in a black garment lighting the candlesticks. The father, mindful of his lame son in the cold wilderness outside that place, did approach unto the verger and spake to him, saying, Wouldst he make way for the lame son to enter into the sanctuary to worship? Not even turning to the father, the verger did continue lighting the candlesticks, and spake thus to the man, saying, Verily, I cannot do two things at once. The man saith to himself, Thou hast well said, I cannot do two things at once. For behold, thou art in fact doing four things at once. Thou lightest candles, thou presentest a wrathful countenance, thou carest not a morsel for the lame man, thou thinkest unkind thoughts towards the lame man and his father, who would worship. And the man of black raiment and visage did continue to be about the candlesticks. He spake again, saying, Yea, verily, another man in that place of coloured raiment would open the way to worship. And he dismissed the father from his presence. It came to pass, the man who was lame and his father did pass by the walls of the cathedral for the 4th time. And behold, after much time did enter that place. And behold, their hearts were warmed when one of the procession of robed ones, not being the man of black countenance and raiment, showest a warm countenance to the lame man. But the verger, who had lighted the candlesticks, was a pleased man, because he had done a great thing for the candlesticks. As for the lame man, he was not worthy to be a candlestick. And the father did think of that place, because there he perceived a monument under candles that do flicker, a place that, if not sick of the palsy, giveth not a fig for them. Behold, the father was sad. I have a dream that one day the disabled will rise up and live out the true meaning of equality. I have a dream that one day the church, with its heavy doors, its steps, and its access loos used as storerooms, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom, accessibility, life. I have a dream that my disabled son will one day be part of a nation, a church, where he'll be judged not by the use of his wheels in the place of feet, but by the stature of his character. I have a dream today. Meantime, I have eyes that see.